This is exactly how to build a team to scale your e-commerce business. And what I'm going to go through today will likely be somewhat the opposite or different to what you may think, especially if you're just starting out in business or in e-commerce specifically. So this is off the back of my own experience in e-commerce for the last 13 years. I co-founded an e-commerce business in 2013 with my brother, and we left our corporate jobs, scaled the business from the kitchen bench. And our business has since gone on to do multiple seven figures per year. And I've also helped over 250 e-commerce brands grow to record revenue months as well with their brands. And so when it comes to building a team, okay, obviously we're looking to scale our business. So we say, okay, what do we really need to scale business? We need certain systems in place. We need people in place. Now, to be really honest with you, you don't necessarily need really any outside help up to, honestly, I think like 20 to 30K or 20 to 50K a month range. Now, that's obviously a big bracket, and it really depends on what your business is doing and how it's actually set up in terms of, are you producing the goods yourself? Like for Karmic, for example, the cold pressed juice business that my brother and I started, we had to produce the juice every single day. We had to deliver the juice as well until we had systems in place. And so that was obviously a lot more manual in terms of the production. But if you're, getting goods from China and just sticking it in your warehouse or something like that, or your home, like your home office, let's be honest, then your circumstance can be a little bit different in terms of how much hands-on support you actually need. And so that's the first kind of thing, like using a monthly revenue bracket or milestone is not going to be the same for everybody. So that's just one consideration that we have to think of. What I would use instead as a yardstick is essentially when you are spending so much time on things that can be outsourced or things that people can do, and that is at the detriment to things that actually grow the business. And what I'd say more specifically is drive more sales. So if we can separate, or really you can actually do this, as you're watching this, you can make a list of everything that you do within a given day, week, and sometimes month if they're kind of once-off activities. And you can see if they're basically category 1, revenue generating, sales generating, right? Or category 2, it might just be business operations and other stuff, admin and customer emails and stuff like that, all right? So if you can see the difference between the two, that's the first port of call, is to actually say, well, what do I do within my day? And sometimes it's hard to even recall this, but this is why it's really important to do it, to see where we can essentially cut wasted time and enhance valuable time. And we do an activity within my paid programs, the Ecom Blueprint, where it's basically a time tracking sheet, right? We do it for 2 weeks. What have you done every single half hour of your day for those in 2 weeks, whether it's personal, business, or otherwise, so that we can see where our time goes. So understanding where your time goes is honestly the first most important thing, because we are busy people. We do have a lot on our minds. We are hardly planning the next day, let alone the next week, let alone the next month ahead sometimes, all right? And so if you can delineate between productive work, efficient work, and even effective work, because they're two different things, then that is, again, the nice starting point that you actually need to get to, okay? Then once you can actually feel, let's call it the consequence of doing things that are business ops related or reactive type work, then you can again see how much time you're pulling away from revenue generating or building business building activities, such as working on Facebook ads. Like I just had a really simple example. And as soon as you are feeling like that, that's when you start to need to hire help. Okay, so that's the first port of call. It's something what I call hiring when it hurts. So that basically means when it is detrimental or hurting your business that you're doing everything, or at least this specific thing you've identified, that you need to go then hire someone or replace yourself with a system and or person. Okay, so that's the real threshold that I'd be looking for. And as I say, for some people it could be 5K a month, for others it could be 50K a month, and you're definitely going to have stages throughout your business with any given specific task. And I'll use an example of a client, Vincent, in our program. He does about 50, 60K a month currently. When he came in, he was probably doing 10 or 15 or something like that. And a really big problem that he started to have when he was growing was that he would have to go to his warehouse, pick and pack for sometimes like half a day or full days at a time, during the week. And so it's really easy to see if you have to go and do something like that. That's kind of like an extreme example or it's a typical example, but extreme example in the sense of you have to leave your, let's call it, place of work or where you're productive and where you're doing your marketing and go somewhere physically else to go and pick and pack and send orders. You are completely removed. It's not like you can multitask. And so it's really good to see that clear differentiation, like I mentioned before. So he was spending 4 to 8 hours a week minimum out of activities where he could be driving and generating more sales. And so what happens as he was getting busier and busier, so you do all this marketing, lay all this groundwork, do all this stuff, make all these sales as a consequence, amazing. And then he had to stop doing all of that because he was over here packing and fulfilling orders. And so that's where the people get big fluctuations, they get the yo-yo effect of their revenues on a monthly basis because they have to borrow time from somewhere else. All right. So I think that, if you've had some experience in business and you've had some level of success as well, you'll understand what I'm talking about when we're wearing all the hats as business owners, right? So that's the second thing. So the first thing is identifying. The second thing is delineating and understanding what point you're hitting that you are detrimentally impacting on the growth of your business. Okay. Hiring only when it hurts. Now, the third component is, well, who do I hire? Meaning, what do I hire for? Okay, what task? Now, this is the bit that might surprise you because what people would gravitate to, and I was the same when I started out, they might gravitate to, well, let's get rid of the things that are hard or get rid of the things that, will actually be revenue generating. So I'll use the example of outsourcing to an agency your meta ads. Really simple example. 9 times out of 10 people would think that that's the best thing they should go and outsource because it takes it off their hands. I'm the creative, I produce the product, that's my passion, that's what I'm good at, and I started this business to sell these things, but I'm not the salesperson, I'm not the marketer. That's typically how people think, and that's fine, but I'm here to tell you that we need to take full responsibility for this thing over here, which is actually understanding how to sell our products. So rather than looking at the high risk is what I'll say, because I'll paint that picture for you about the consequence of going and outsourcing these sorts of things. I would be looking at the lower risk tasks to go and outsource, the non-revenue generating activities, the business operations that are crucial to dish off so that you can put more of your time into selling. All right. So think about picking and packing, think about production, think about really simple admin tasks, whether it's accounting, whether it's customer relationships or customer communications. There's a list, and you'll have your list, as I mentioned, that you should go and create of things that are non-revenue generating and revenue generating. Now, if you think about risk and, if something goes wrong in each one of these components, of course, you don't want anything to go wrong. Fact of life and fact of business, things are going to go wrong. But what I'm talking about is there's lower risk on the non-revenue generating activities. Okay. Lower risk that something's going to impact on your growth of your business. Let's just say that. And so that's where I'll be looking for reason number one. Reason number two is typically the skill set that someone requires is lower. Okay. Running meta ads, scaling meta ads is high skill, high experience, should be. I'll leave that up to you about who, you've had a look at or had experience with in the past, but should be. Whereas picking and packing, for example, or producing your product is low skill. All right. What does that mean? That means that more people are going to be available. There's a lot of agencies. I get that. That's fine. But good people is going to be more difficult than finding good enough people for your lower tasks, your less important tasks, let's call it. And the third component, because of that reason, because there's more people around, it's going to be lower cost for you. Okay. Talk about risk. Lower level of skill required and lower cost for you. Versus, again, an agency, you might be spending $2,000 a month just to hire them because they're the experts. And honestly, in my experience, they're probably not going to be able to get any better results than you are, and you're paying them the agency fee, and they're going to come up with a myriad of excuses about why they can't actually perform to the level that you expect to. And you're going to then go from agency to agency, hoping it's going to be different, but it's not. Okay. Obviously, speaking from past scars, but people who have been in the game for a while will know what I'm talking about. And so that's what I would really recommend is what task are you actually hiring for? I recommend you go from bottom to top, right? You as the owner, or you might have a business partner or something like that, or someone that you trust who is helping you with the sales side of things. That's great. Keep it as internal as possible, because that's where A, the cost, A, the skill, B, C, the risk is actually, right? A, B, C. It's really important that we keep control for as long as possible. Whilst we may not want to, it might be out of our comfort zone. No one is going to take the responsibility for it that we are. No one's going to take the ownership. No one is going to care about our business as much as we do. And so we must learn those skills. We must basically, with brute force, the way that we did with Kame, is push through and learn those things and persist with it. Because again, no one's going to care or put as much time and effort or love into it than what we are. Whereas these things over here, they're easy enough in terms of skill set. They're cheap enough that if someone, comes and goes, we can, rehire really quickly, and it's not going to cost us much. And it's just generally low risk, right? It's not going to impact on our sales. Okay. Of course, again, there'll be some mistakes here and there. I get that. There's an allowance though that we can cater for there, versus if something happens with med ads, we get shut down, we're not growing, we're blowing thousands of dollars unprofitably. That's going to sink our ship way quicker than something on the other end if someone gets sent something in the wrong day or wrong order or something like that. Okay. So that's how I think about scaling through hiring and building a team, right? Number one is see where your time is going. Number two is only hire when it hurts, right? Look at hiring when it actually hurts and detrimental to your current sales and growing your business even more. And number three is hire for the lowest activity first and work your way up the chain, because that's, as I say, easy to hire for, low skill, and definitely lower cost. all right, and way easier to manage. You can get into it really easily, and then you can start to give them more responsibility maybe, and then suddenly maybe they are part of the team and they can do other things as well. Okay, that's the best way we've done it. So look, I hope that was valuable for you, because it's a discussion that comes up all the time. As I say, the temptation is say, when I get to X, I need to go and outsource and hire an expensive agency and they're going to make all my wildest dreams come true. I think, my experience tells me quite the opposite, unfortunately. And sometimes people have to go through it to figure that out, but hopefully you can learn from my scars in this case. All right. So look, that's all from me. Thanks for watching till the end. If you want to know more about how we help e-com brands, you can click on the link below, grab a time to chat if you're interested. But other than that, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.